Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Back today with some more Python cones. It's a little bit later than lunch. I was going to say welcome back to another lunchtime study session, but I had been working on some stuff and I didn't really want to context switch until about now. So had a quick lunch and I decided I'll do 30 or 40 minutes here. Just working further into our Python cones. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back to the very first episode because we're about 3 or 4 episodes deep at this point. And it'll give you a rundown on exactly what the cones are, how to get set up, etc. So as you all know, we will run our contemplatecones.py file to see where exactly we are at. I don't even remember. And we can see that we are in users, show top, programming, Python cones, master cones, about string manipulation. So let's jump into that file. I am not even in, let's see, file, open recent, cones, there we are. And what did we say? About string manipulation. Let's redo that because that probably doesn't have it in the buffer. About string manipulation. All right, and I think we are clearly going to be on assertion on line 12, but let's just confirm. Yes, line 12, as you can see right here, showing us in our error. Please meditate on the following code. So let's read it. So we've got a test. Test use format to interpolate variables, okay? Value 1, we have a variable on line 9, value 1 set to the string 1. We've got a variable on line 10, value 2, set to the integer 2. And then we've got a variable on line 11 set to the string the values are, and then it looks like they take a special interpolation syntax, and we can call looks like a dot format method is called on that string with 2 arguments passed in, value 1 and value 2, which obviously were defined on lines 9 and 10. So these 2 get defined, they get passed in as arguments to this method format, which can be called, it appears, on a string, and it says test use format to interpolate variables. So the next question becomes, okay, what does string equal for the assertion? I'm going to assume, if I just copy a bunch of this, that basically the values set above for value 1 and value 2 are going to be placed in here. So value 1's value was 1, the string, and values 2 value was the digit or the integer 2. Notice that these integers here, I think, are indexed values, and they basically point to the item at that particular index in the list of arguments passed to format. All right, so let's see if we're correct. And we are now down to line 18. So yes, it looks like we were correct. All right, moving on. Test formatted values can be shown in any order or be repeated. All right, so on line 15, we've got a variable doe, value 1. On line 16, we've got a variable value 2 with set to the string of doe in capitals. And then 17, we've got another value, variable string, set to another string. The values are 1, 0, 0, 1 dot format, and we've got value 1 and 2. All right, so the item that we are interpolating at position 0 or at index 0, which is what these 2 map to, is this first one. And the item that we are interpolating, or the string, I guess, that we are interpolating at position 1 is this one. So I think we just need to like place these in the correct spots. And they can be in any order, or they can be repeated, it looks like. So for the item in the list of arguments at position 1, first of all, let's set this up. The values are, in position 1 is the string mapped to the variable value 2. So the values are doe, comma, and then it looks like lowercase doe, and capital doe, exclamation point. All right, so basically we're just taking these, understanding where they fall in terms of the index that they fall in the list past 2 format here, and then just applying the correct ones based on their order in the new string, and filling in with the values set before on lines 15 and 16. All right, so let's see if that is correct and I didn't make any typos. It looks like it was. All right, moving on. Test at line number 20. Test any Python expression may be interpolated. Okay. So interpolation is the process by which you take some value or take some thing and put it into an existing string in some position. That's basically all it is. Like you inject it into a string that you are building or that already exists. You're interpolating it into that other string. So this one, test any Python expression may be interpolated. Okay, so on line 21, we've imported a new library, the math library. Import a standard Python module with math functions. So this library, math, contains some special methods that we can call, presumably, all that have to do with math. On line 23, we have a variable decimal places, and that's set to the integer 4. On line 24, we've got a variable string set to a string, the square root of 5 is, and then it looks like, what are we doing here? So we've got the method format. Its first argument is math.square root of 5. The second argument is decimal places, which is 4. Okay, so it would appear that this is going to say well, I think this 0 is an index, and it's going to be the result of this, whatever this is, whatever the actual square root of 5 is. This 1 is going to be, I think this, and I think it's to 4 decimal places. I think it's what it will do. So let's give that a try. So first of all, let's do this. We'll open a new window, and we will jump into our interactive console here to just run some random Python code. All right, so we've imported math like they do here. And let's just run this to see what it is. What is the actual square root of 5? 2.2360. All right, so if that's the case, I suspect, let me just grab this whole thing, because we're trying to determine what this final string is after these values are interpolated. I'm going to make a guess because I'm not really sure. But I think this is going to be 2. I think it's just going to go out to 4 decimal places. 2360. 2360. I'm just going to get rid of all this. And let's see if that's correct. So we'll jump back over, we'll run our test. It is very close, but it goes out to 2361. Let's look at the actual math. Did I round incorrectly? 2360, and yeah, 6 is the final or the next digit, so that makes sense that it would round up for the final spot. So let's look at what again happened here. It's an interesting, unfamiliar syntax for me. This F, I think, means float, because otherwise I think you might just get the first integer back, not the decimals. So that's important. This 0, I think, does map to the result of the first argument. And I think the 1 does map to the number of decimal places in the second argument. So the fact, though, that these are nested and that there's a colon here and a dot seems a little bit foreign to me, coming from the Ruby world. So that's interesting. Test that any Python expression may be interpolated. All right, next up. Test that you can get a substring from a string. Okay. So on line 29, we've got a variable string set to a string, bacon, lettuce, and tomato. And then we, in the assertion, have this slice syntax that we saw with lists, where you can take the items in a list and get back a subset of them from one index to another. And so if that is the case, I assume these indexes point to positions in the string. Let's say 0 is B, 1 is A, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let us, and let's see, what's that? 8, 9, 10. I'm going to just guess and see if this is ETT. And I don't know if it's like inclusive, if it starts right before or right after the indexes that are passed in here. But it looks like it's going to be some subset. So let's give that a try. ETT does not equal LET. Okay, so when we say the 7, let's do that again. So I've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so it's going to be the first character, the character that comes right, I guess, after the cursor, or right before the cursor, where the index falls. So that's that. So let's say 7, 8, 9, 10. So the character right before my cursor, after I get to the index that I've counted out, which is shown here, is T. So we were at 7 right before L, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's actually the one right before that one for the N. So it's not inclusive, the second argument, the second index, which is why you don't get LETT. Let's see what that says again. All right, so that worked. So first of all, what do we know now? We know that we can slice substrings from strings. We know that we do that by passing 2 indexes to the in the slice syntax to the string. And the second argument index is not inclusive, meaning it's the character before that position. that gives you the substring that you're looking for. Test that you can get a single character from a string. All right, so if the first index is 0 and the second index is 1, I'm going to assume that this is whatever character is at the first index of string, which is defined here on line 33, bacon, lettuce, and tomato again. And so that character, I think, is going to be A, the second character, basically, of the full string. Let's try that. And that, are we on line 37? That was correct. All right, so that was pretty straightforward. Test single characters can be represented by integers. Okay. Single characters can be represented by integers. So we're going to say assert equal, what is the ord of A? Ord of B equals ord of A plus 1. All right, so ord, I'm just going to Google it real quick to make sure I say the right thing. Meaning of ord in Python. Ordinal. The ordinal expression. And it refers to the numerical position of the character in the Unicode standard. Okay, so it's Unicode character for that string, for that character. So let's go find out what ord of A is. Let me do a view, make text bigger. What's ord of A? $97. All right, so we'll put that here for now, 97. And then ord of B equals ord of A plus 1. Is that true? So what's ord of B? Is it 98? It is. So on this case, I think we're going to say true. Because this expression, notice that double equals that we've seen before, it is going to evaluate to a Boolean, true or false. And it says, okay, does the thing on the left, its result, does the result of the thing on the left equal the result of the thing on the right? And when you go through the order of operations, you figure out what is returned by this method and the item that you give it, you'll get a result. And if the result on the left equals the result on the right, this method or this syntax will return a Boolean, in this case true, because they will be equal. And then the assert equal wants to know, okay, does the thing on the left equal the thing on the right? And that's how we arrive at, okay, we need to put a Boolean here. All right, so let's go and give that a try. And it looks like it worked. So what are we on now? Line 43. Okay, we're moving on. Test strings can be split. Okay. So we've got on line 41 a variable set to a single string. First of all, the variable is called string, and it's set to a single string, sausage, egg, cheese. Words is another variable on line 42, and it is the result of calling the method split on that variable we defined on line 41, string. So calling split on this value here. And what does split do? Well, split takes a string and parses it into individual items and returns those items in a list of individual strings. All right, so if I'm correct about that, then we have a new assertion here, actually. Assert list equal. So this is going to be a way to compare lists. All right, and so we're going to determine what our new list equals. So let's do that. So I think the first one is going to be sausage. The second item I expect to be egg. And the third item I expect to be cheese. And this list, in the first position here, or as the first argument, we're saying, okay, assert that it equals whatever this is. And as you can see on line 42, we called split on this value. And that's how we end up with these two being equal, or at least I think they're going to be equal. And we're going to find out right now by running this test and confirming. And that is what happened. So calling split on a string will create a list out of that string and return every item or every word that is space delimited in that string. It will return them in a list of individual substrings, and that's what just happened here. All right, next up, test strings can be split with different patterns. Okay, import RE. So that is the regular expression library. Import Python regular expression library. All right, so we did that. String. We have on line 48 a variable string, and it's set to this odd looking string with various random commas and a semicolon and then a comma. Okay. Pattern is another variable on line 49, and it's set to regular expression, which is the library we just pulled in. And we're calling presumably a method in that library. So it's a special method designed for this type of purpose. .compile. And then that method takes a couple arguments. It looks like some different symbols, comma, pipe, semicolon. Okay. Then we say, take the pattern that we just defined and split it, and then we passed our string to that pattern. So now the question is, it looks like this structure here defines the way or the pattern that you want to split in. Pattern is a Python regular expression pattern which matches comma or semicolon. So it seems like this will be, again, just split up, and then the pattern is comma, semicolon, comma, semicolon. So in this case, we have comma, semicolon, comma, and then something else, what would presumably be another semicolon. So the split method, I think, is going to take this pattern and split the new old string up based on that pattern. So split it at the first comma, then at the first semicolon, then the first comma, then the first semicolon, etc. And that's, I think, how you get this list, the rain in Spain. I think that's what that's going to give us. So let's try it out. And that is correct. All right, so we don't just have to split on white space. That's the default. So that's the key thing to take away from this. When you call split on a string, the default is to split it up based on white space, these little spaces. But let's say your string has no white space. You can not only actually split on any type of character that you want, you can split on patterns of characters in specific repeating orders. So that's pretty interesting. All right, next up, what do we got? Test raw strings do not interpret escape characters. Okay, so this is interesting. So escape characters are used typically in regular expressions to tell the regular expression to ignore a character, that it doesn't have any, I guess, semantic meaning in the regular expression. And that's a concept that you have to get used to. It looks a little odd, but it's basically, it's escaping whatever process is happening right now. It's a way to say, don't just ignore this character or whatever it is. So in line 58, we've got a variable string set to r/n, which is a new line character. All right, so on line 59, we are asserting not equal /n and whatever string is. Okay, so then what is string? I suspect it will just be r, but I'm not positive. Maybe it'll be empty. Maybe it'll be empty string because we are ignoring the /n. So let's give that a try. Useful in regular expressions, file paths, URLs, etc. All right, so let's see. Actually, let's jump over and get this. Let me do this. So let's set it to that. Now, what is string? //n. Interesting. Something like that. Let's run it. Line 61. Okay, that was correct. All right. Yeah, I'm just thinking about that one. That's kind of weird. Self-assert equal. What is the length of string? I don't think it's 3. I think it's 1, but let me try. 1 does not equal 2. So the length of the string is 2. So this is an odd one. Let me ask. What is the R syntax in Python? String prefix. Okay, in Python, the R prefix before a string denotes a raw string. This is a specific syntax used to modify how Python interprets escape sequences within the string. Okay, that's interesting. So it's telling it to, maybe it's telling it to actually interpret this slash as part of the string. Or maybe it's telling it to place an escape character. So when this is done, when this is set, this /n is not what the result of this is. /n is the result of what this is, which tells me that it's like, hey, interpret this /n as the actual string /n. And in order to do that, you're going to need to add this escape character beforehand so that the resulting string is literally /n when Python interprets it. And that's how you get the 2 as the length of that string. So that was kind of convoluted. That's a little bit of a weird one to try to describe. But the things to take away from this are that you can control how Python interprets different strings, and especially escape characters. And escape characters like \, for example, you know, when you've got, for example, something like this, these slashes are valid slashes. Now, typically, by default, they would be escape characters, which would say, hey, Python, disregard the item or the character that falls after me. But I think this R character is like, hey, no, actually interpret those. So that's, I think it's just telling Python how to deal with characters in your string that are typically escapes. All right, kind of interesting. You could probably do like a whole course on that. Test. strings can be joined. Okay, this is the opposite of split. So join takes a list of items, like strings, and joins them into a single string. And you can join them in different ways, but the default is simply to join them with white space. Okay, so we will just grab all of these, and you'll see how this works. So on line 67 here, we've got a list with a bunch of individual strings. Now is the time. And we're going to call join, and we actually call join on a white space character. So that's what I just mentioned. And by default, we join via white space. All right, and now let's do that. And we want to get rid of all this other stuff. So we end up with the 4 items from the list joined using white space, meaning the character that's between each of them in the new string is a white space character. And they all are now part of the same string. One single string surrounded by quotes, not individual strings. Let's see if that was correct. And it appears it was. Okay, so the key thing to take away from that one is that join is the opposite of split. Join takes a thing that's split into a list, various items, individual items, and joins them together into a single string. All right, last one. Test strings can change case. Okay, so we can call methods on strings that are built in, like capitalize, upper, lower, title, and swap case. Okay, so if we do capitalize, I'm going to assume, just going to guess all these, G-U-I-D-O. All right. For upper, I'm going to guess it's going to be G-U-I-D-O. I could be wrong. Let's guess on this one. Timbot, I'm going to assume it will be all the things are lowercase. Maybe not the last one, but I'm not sure. For title, let's try Guido Van Rossum, as though we were capitalizing for, someone's name. And then swap case, I assume, will be every lowercase becomes an uppercase and every uppercase becomes a lowercase. So let's do that. That's going to be lowercase, capital O, lowercase, capital A, lowercase l, capital L, lowercase y, space, capital A, lowercase w, capital E, lowercase s, capital O, lowercase m, capital E. So a swapped. Everything is swapped. All right, let's give those a try. Did I get them all correct? I did, because now we are in about tuples.py. So that's a totally different file. So that means we have finished the about string manipulation file. And I think that'll be it. Just a quick little session today. Made it through another file. So let's see what we're at. We have completed 63 koans, 7 out of 37 lessons, 241 koans, and 30 more lessons away from enlightenment. All right, what do we got here? Although that way may not be obvious at first unless you're Dutch. Okay, so whatever that means. So yeah, 20% of the way done. Slowly but surely making our way through and just learning some of the intricacies of Python along the way. So if you have any questions about anything we discussed in this video, let me know in the comments, and I will see you, I think, later this week with some more networking stuff. I've been studying a topic that is difficult, QoS. I don't know how significant it's going to be on the CCNA, but quality of service, basically defining how important different types of packets are on the network and giving certain packets preference over others when determining what's able to be dropped and what's not, etc. So anyway, look for some more of that. And if not, maybe just some more Python Koans, because I'd like to be doing maybe 1 or 2 videos a week. All right, hope you all have a good rest of the day. Happy Monday. Have a good rest of the week. And I will see you all on the next one. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.